The sun burned low over the Arizona desert, turning the sandy plains into a long sheet of gold as dust rose behind the hooves of the approaching riders. Jacob Wilder, a poor rancher with more debts than dollars, stood at the edge of his small, weather-worn homestead, staring into the shimmering heat as a group of Apache warriors approached. He knew them, knew their leader, Chief Nahele. He had traded horses with them, shared water when drought cracked the land, even tended minor wounds when conflict with soldiers left scars. But today, their arrival felt different, heavy, like the air itself was warning him. Then he saw them, two young Apache twins riding behind the warriors, their hands tied, their faces calm, but their eyes screaming. Tala and Sani. He had met them once during a spring gathering, where herds mingled and tribes traded. They were gentle, curious, always working together like two halves of one soul. But today, they were dressed in ceremonial clothing, the kind used when a match was forced rather than chosen. Jacob's stomach tightened. He stepped forward as the dust settled around them. "Chief." Nahele dismounted and spoke with the weight of a man who wished things were different. "The twins have been chosen," he said. "The council insisted they be given to a rival war leader to secure peace." Jacob felt a hot crack of anger split through him. He had heard rumors of the war leader, Dagon, a man who collected power the way some men collected mustangs. The twins were quiet, kneeling in the dust, their braids falling over their shoulders. Despite everything, they carried themselves with dignity, but Jacob could see the fear they hid. He also saw something else, acceptance. They believed there was no escape. "They don't want this," Jacob said, his voice dry as the sand beneath his boots. "A match without choice is no bond at all." Chief Nahele looked away, troubled. "My daughter cries for them," he confessed. "I do not agree with the council. But peace requires sacrifice." Jacob's fists tightened, anger boiling. He knew those words too well. His own mother had been forced into a marriage she never wanted. He had seen what forced choices did to a soul. He glanced at the twins again, their wrists bruised, their bodies still, their eyes resigned. And then something strange happened. Tala looked up at him, not pleading, not begging, but as if silently asking whether they mattered at all to the world. Just one look, but it was enough to tear something open inside Jacob Wilder. Before he even realized it, he stepped forward, and the words came out like thunder. "If peace needs a name," he said, "take mine." The warriors stirred. Chief Nahele blinked, confused, as if he had misheard. "Your name?" "My name, my protection, my roof, whatever it takes," Jacob said. "I offer marriage, not as a claim, but as a shield, to keep them from a man who'll treat them like property." The air went still, as if even the desert itself leaned closer. The twins looked up sharply, eyes wide, startled. Sani whispered something to her sister, and surprise flashed across Tala's features for the first time. "You are poor," Chief Nahele said, not cruelly but as fact. "You have no power to stand against the war leader." Jacob swallowed. "But I have honesty," he said, "and a name that's never been stained." Silence stretched. Only the wind moved. Finally, Chief Nahele knelt beside the twins and said something soft to them in Apache. The sisters listened carefully, their eyes flicking to Jacob. Then Tala asked in halting English, "You save us, why?" She didn't ask with hope, only confusion. Jacob's answer was quiet, almost ashamed. "Because I know what it's like to watch someone lose their choice. And I won't stand here and watch it happen twice more." Sani stared at him, and for the first time since arriving, her shoulders trembled, not from fear, but from relief so deep it hurt. Chief Nahele stood, torn between duty and knowing the truth of his heart. "The council will not accept this easily," he warned. "They will see you as interfering in tribal matters." "Then let them see me," Jacob replied. "But they won't take them to that man." One of the warriors rode forward. "If the rancher gives his name, the council must consider it," the warrior said. Chief Nahele finally nodded. "We will return at dusk. If you are sure of this sacrifice, we will bring the council's answer." When they left, the twins remained, kneeling quietly as if afraid to move. Jacob knelt beside them, cutting their bindings carefully so he wouldn't hurt their skin. "You're safe here," he said softly. Tala's voice quivered as she whispered, "No one ever chooses us." "Against others," Jacob shook his head. "I'm not choosing against anyone. I'm choosing for you." The twins exchanged a look, one of disbelief, one of fragile hope. When the warriors disappeared into the horizon, Jacob exhaled a breath that trembled. He had just offered his name, his life, to save two women he barely knew. But as he led them toward the shade of his little ranch house, something new stirred in the desert wind. Not doom, not fear. Something beginning. Dusk bled across the sky in a wash of purple and ember red as Jacob prepared himself for what was coming. The twins sat quietly near the small fire he'd lit, their silhouettes soft against the glow, their eyes reflecting both fear and gratitude. The air was thick, with the scent of mesquite wood and the unspoken truth that everything was about to change. Jacob felt the weight of his decision bearing down like a mountain. He who had offered his name, not realizing just how much that meant in the eyes of Apache law. Marriage, even symbolic, tied families, tribes, and futures together. He had done it to save them, not to bind them to him. But he also knew he couldn't take those words back, not when the alternative was their suffering. As stars spread across the darkening sky, hooves sounded in the distance. Multiple riders. The council had come. Jacob stood tall, though sweat dampened his collar. The twins rose too, standing behind him like shadows, seeking the smallest bit of protection. Chief Naheli dismounted first, his face unreadable. Behind him were four elders, draped in traditional garments, their expressions stern as stone. One elder stepped forward, his voice deep and commanding. "Rancher," he said, "your offer is unusual. A man outside the tribe seldom requests such a role. Why should we honor it?" Jacob swallowed, feeling the eyes of the twins digging into his back. "Because I'm not here to take them," he said. "I'm here to keep them safe. Not as my wives, unless they choose it. Not as servants. Not as bargaining pieces. I'm offering my name only as protection." The elders exchanged glances. One scoffed. Another frowned thoughtfully. The eldest, a woman with silver braids and eyes sharp as an eagle's, stepped closer. "Your name? Is it worth enough to shield them?" Jacob lifted his chin. "It's all I have, but it's honest." Then, surprising even himself, he added, "And it will stand between them and any man who tries to force their fate." The old woman studied him for a long, agonizing moment. Finally, she turned to the twins and spoke to them softly in Apache. They answered with quiet voices, glancing shyly toward Jacob. Tala spoke more than Sani, her voice stronger. But it was Sani's final whispered reply that made the elder nod. The decision wasn't Jacob's, it was theirs. The elder turned back. "The twins say you have shown more heart in a moment than the war leader has shown in years." A younger councilman stepped forward angrily. "But Dagan will demand compensation. He will not accept this insult." Chief Naheli met his glare with a hardened voice. "Let him demand. We choose dignity over fear." But the younger councilman was right. About one thing, war leader. Dagan was not a man to accept loss quietly. As if summoned by his name, another set of hoofbeats thundered across the plain. A rider galloped toward them, a scout from Naheli's tribe. "Dagan approaches," he shouted, panting. "He rides with 20 men." The twins stiffened, fear slashing across their faces like lightning. Jacob felt his heart leap, but he stepped in front of them instinctively. The elder woman's eyes narrowed. "Your decision will be tested tonight, rancher." Moments later, Dagan arrived, dismounting with the fury of a brewing storm. He was large, scarred, and walked with the swagger of a man who believed the world existed only to bow to him. "Where are they?" he demanded. "The twins belong to me by council decree." Jacob stepped forward before anyone else could speak. "They're not objects," he said. "And they're not yours," Dagan sneered. "You dare challenge me? A poor rancher with nothing?" "With a name," Jacob answered. "A good one." "Your name means nothing," Dagan spat. "They are mine by right." Tala suddenly stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong. "We never chose you." Sani followed, clutching her sister's arm. "We choose freedom." Dagan's rage twisted his features. He reached for his weapon too fast. But Jacob moved first, stepping between him and the twins, his hand on his own holster but not drawing. "You'll have to kill me," Jacob said quietly. "Because you won't take them. Alive." The moment felt like the desert, held its breath again. Then the elder woman raised her staff sharply. "Enough," she commanded. "The council has heard the twins' choice. Their freedom is protected. The rancher's name has been offered and accepted," Dagon roared. "By fools." Chief Nahali stepped forward, spear in hand. "Then call us fools," he said. "But you will not cross this line." 20 Apache warriors lowered their weapons. The message was clear. Dagon's eyes burned with hatred. But even he knew better than to start a war he couldn't win. He mounted his horse, spitting into the dust. "This is not over," he hissed, then rode off into the darkness. Slowly, the tension drained. The warriors sheathed their weapons. The council stood tall. The elder woman turned to Jacob and gave a small, approving nod. "Your name now protects them," she said. "Whether you remain bound in the future is your choice." "And theirs." Jacob exhaled, only now feeling how deeply his hands shook. Tala and Sani stepped beside him, trembling, but this time from relief. Tala whispered, "You saved us." Jacob shook his head. "No, you saved yourselves. I just stood with you." The twins looked at him, gratitude shining so brightly it hurt. Chief Nahali clasped Jacob's shoulder. "Tonight you became more than a rancher." The desert around them glowed under the first rise of the moon. And for the first time in a long while, Jacob felt something warm growing inside, a sense of purpose, maybe even family. And as the warriors began to depart, Tala spoke softly, almost shyly. "Jacob, what happens now?" Jacob smiled gently. "Whatever you choose. My name is yours to use, but your future still belongs to you." The twins exchanged a faint, hopeful smile, and somewhere in the desert wind, it felt like a new beginning had just been written.